for Flabonga Monthrothacube. With Dale and Tony breaking all the rules. Talking tech, biz, and straight up chaos. Quick fire guests, oh yeah, we slay those.
Good afternoon. My name is Dale Rodriguez, and this is a Flabonga Monthrothacube. With me today, I've got.
It's Leigh Stallard.
Hey, Lee. Welcome back.
Thank you, mate. It's good to be back.
I'm going to actually have to jump. Excuse me, Lee. Jump straight into the comments. Marcus Batson commented before we went live. He's put afternoon, everyone. He's eager to hear from you, Lee.
Oh, excellent. Love Marcus. How are you, mate?
Ask Lee some questions. Like let's get the ball rolling. Because I'm not gonna lie, after so many episodes, I think people get tired of me asking some of the same questions. And as I discussed before with you, Lee, before we went live, all the shock questions I've got, you've already answered. I already know which kid is your favourite. You refuse to answer. I already know what biscuit you're going to be, and I already know which animal you would choose, forsaking all others, if you had to eat only one animal. So like, there's no more. And last time you were here, Tony was on, and you answered the coffee question as well. So.
Coffee question, yeah, I did.
That's all we got. I mean, I could adapt the same questions, but they're not as exciting that way. For example, if there's one vegetable you could eat for the rest of your life, forsaking all others, what vegetable are you chowing down on? Let the people know.
It's probably not the healthiest, but it's got to be a potato, hasn't it? It's the most versatile.
Is it a vegetable?
Yeah, it's a root vegetable, is it not?
Yeah, I guess so.
I know it doesn't count as one of your 5 a day.
It definitely doesn't. There's no chlorophyll whatsoever.
Apparently, Americans count it as one of the 5 a day.
That doesn't surprise me. Although we can't tease them about being overweight anymore, like when we were younger, because apparently our overweight and obesity levels are on par per capita. Like we've got the same amount of people who are overweight. Really? Yeah, we've become just as fat as America.
So I read a really interesting book about that recently, which was ultra processed people, and it's fascinating what goes on in what goes into food and the sort of corporate practices behind it and all that sort of stuff. It's really eye-opening.
Yep. For example, don't buy pre-grated cheese. The reason being, not only are you paying a premium for it to be pre-grated, the anti-caking agent on the back of the label, that can be and is often sawdust, very fine wood particulate.
Wow, that's awful.
It's not going to hurt you, but it's not something you'd normally eat.
They wouldn't put it on the front of the packet, would they?
No,
and that's the clue, isn't it? If they wouldn't be bold and proud about what they're telling you is in there, it's probably not something.
We grate this cheese, we coat it in sawdust so it doesn't stick together. Now eat it.
Oh my God.
I know, right? In saying that, let's be honest, we all enjoy a good McDonald's every now and again, or some kind of processed fast foody, too sugary, too salty type dealy, right?
Yeah, I think it's. Well, one of the things in the book is about how hard it is actually to avoid it all completely. If you wanted to cut it out, it's sort of nigh on impossible. But yeah, everyone likes a good burger every now and again, don't they?
All right, Marcus has got a question that's bringing us back on topic, because again, it's a business-related podcast with business people talking about business things and that. Marcus Batson, what's Lee's view on software giving discounts to win a client and or retain them?
I think it's really easy to just go, it's good or it's bad. It's complicated because sometimes, especially if you're early, you just need to get some wins on the board, right? And you need to collect some badges and get some testimonials and whatever it might be. You just need to get some stuff over the line. And so discounts are a lever for doing that. However, there are lots of downsides that I think people don't necessarily realize when they think they're just getting a quick win. So if you're discounting, you're potentially reducing the sort of perceived value of the product potentially.
Yep.
You are giving yourself some profitability issues potentially, certainly if you're smaller or bootstrapped. Yep. The other thing, which is a topic I'm really interested in at the moment, is the success of onboarding. So a lot of SaaS vendors find that the sales part is hard, but then actually getting people to use what they've bought is in some cases even harder. And that gets more difficult if you've devalued the product, devalued or deprioritized it because they're not feeling the pain of having to pay as much for it. That can then lead you to stall a little bit in that early implementation phase and ultimately risk churning the customer off. So it's complicated and it's nuanced. There's a use for it, but it shouldn't be taken lightly, I don't think.
Yeah, and back to your point about onboarding, I'm seeing this more often in my role, SaaS vendors having a specific onboarding team, which I think makes a big difference. I'll give a shout out to someone, Alicia Hales at Silverfin. She does a very good job of this, right? She is the after sales person, and her team, so I should say, making sure that you get the most out of your, let's be honest, very large purchase. But I think that's, my perception is it must be frustrating for vendors who do a very good job of selling. And I'm not saying like they're doing devious methods. They actually do a very good job of selling. They find the pain points, articulate the pain points, solve those pain points, and then the buyer just doesn't implement internally, right? That's usually what happens. It kind of falls over because, I don't know, senior management or a group of people just don't want to do it. I can imagine that's a frustration.
It is, and I've felt that frustration as being someone that's been selling this stuff in the past, and there's usually a number of reasons as to why that happens. I might have mentioned this the last time I was on, but one of the classic ones is that SaaS salespeople will go and try and sell to the highest decision maker they can find, and that's usually not the person that's then implementing stuff. And 100%, they'll sign something up, go, great, it's a good deal or whatever, and then it just gets delegated. And I love accountants, and I think I even said this last time, I don't want to generalize because people do tend to do that, but it is challenging for a lot of accountant folks to properly delegate, properly manage change, and support people through a change process. It's just not really a skill set that's encouraged or developed as a matter of course through the kind of career in accounting. And so then it sort of gets lost, right? People actually need to do the work, aren't supported, and it's just easier to stay with what they're used to. And there's a really interesting model around why and how people behave, which I've been kind of looking into recently. So there's a sort of a language to it.
So you've been doing some kind of like Darren Brown-esque studies. Are you going to brainwash me through the screen? Is that what's going to happen? Like, am I going to start like, clucking like a chicken and like tapping my nose 3 times? Like...
No, hypnosis is the next module. But no, I've been learning a bit about behavior design and behavioral psychology and all that sort of stuff. I find it fascinating anyway. I've always been interested in it, but then trying to apply that to the work that I'm doing at the moment around onboarding and supporting SaaS vendors to do this well. It's been really interesting and given a lot of language to the stuff that I'd sort of learnt and experienced and sort of bumbled my way through in the past. It's now thinking, oh, okay, that's why that happened that way. So one example of that is something called the BJ Fogg behavior model. So he's a Stanford professor. And the model, and it's really useful for all sorts of things, not just software onboarding. It's just useful for you to know and kind of manage your own behavior. So a behavior happens where you've got 3 things present, where you've got motivation, ability, and a prompt. So if you're sufficiently motivated and it's easy enough to do, someone asks you to do something, you'll just do it. So if I said, push a red button and you'll get 10 quid, well, you'll do it, right? Super easy. There's a benefit. And I've asked you to do it. The problem happens when you've got sort of lower motivation and it's really hard to do. So in that, because you've got 2 axes, you can sort of plot it on a 2x2 matrix. So if you've got low motivation and low ability, it doesn't happen when you prompt people. If you've got high motivation and high ability, or it's easy to do, then it'll happen quite easily. And so it's just really interesting to think about that as you're trying to plot these pathways for people to follow to implement your products, or if you're just trying to make a better habit or do things differently in your own life.
It's interesting because you say that, and when you say it, it sounds obvious. But like, I think it sounds obvious, but so often do we overlook it. Like in our day to day, whether that's work or personal lives or anything like that, it's like, there's literally like a way of looking at it, and however easy something is to do, it's more likely to happen. So that makes sense.
And there's a lot of money involved in hacking people's psychology, and often that's done to our detriment by, say, social media companies that want to keep us on a platform and keep us engaging with ads or whatever it might be. So if you can hack your psychology for good reasons or for your own benefit, I think that's like a superpower, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, have there been any other kind of revelations or surprises through the study you've been doing? Anything just been like, oh wow, that's a proper moment?
I went back and looked at the work of Daniel Kahneman in Thinking Fast and Slow and thinking about System 1 thinking and System 2 thinking.
Okay.
And that becomes really relevant in change, particularly if something's being dropped on someone. and then they feel threatened by it. So if you're in an accounting practice and someone's going to bring in an AI bookkeeping tool, if you haven't properly communicated what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's very reasonable that some of the people that are doing bookkeeping suddenly slip into system one thinking, which is that sort of panic, sort of lizard mode, because they think their job's at threat. And it's really hard for them to then think laterally and logically about a problem and how you deal with it. They're just in sort of fight or flight or survival mode. And so then you think about, well, how do we manage that and stop people going into that state when it's at a time we don't want them to do it? So yeah, some of those things that I'd read a while ago, just sort of interesting psychology stuff, now coming sort of back circle, and there being a really practical application for it has been really interesting.
Okay, random question. Are you a summer person or a winter person? And if either, why?
Absolutely summer. I need that vitamin D. I need to get out there and get the sun on my skin a little bit. I don't know. Life feels a bit better, doesn't it, when the sun's out and you've got a long evening time after you finish work and you can get barbecues out. And yeah, definitely summer for me.
I'm
Right,
the
you?
same. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely the same. I would say coldness is my kryptonite, but I'm not a tough guy. If I were, I can't be bothered. It's cold. I don't want to go out. I really hate when it's cold and raining. I'm okay with raining and not super cold. And I'm okay with cold or not raining. But when it's the two combined, I'm not going anywhere. It's not happening.
I'm convinced that, how we all have an appendix that's just sort of like an artifact of the animal that we used to be. I'm sure there's still an equivalent of an appendix for hibernation for us. Like when it gets too cold, there's a part of us that still wants to hibernate and just makes us a bit more tired and a bit more lethargic through the winter months, or certainly is for me anyway.
The darkness doesn't help as well. Like I know the clock's changed a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago. I'm still not used to the later evenings. I'm like, it feels like it's really late. It's like, no, it's only like 7:30. It's like, it's not that late. But yeah, my body clock's just like all over the place. So yeah. Okay. Okay, taking it back to business. You mentioned AI bookkeepers. I'm not going to put you on the spot with this one, so feel free to reposition the question. You must have looked at a few, have heard of a few. In your opinion, what's looking good? How are they working? What have you seen so far that's really kind of given you some razzle dazzle?
So in terms of the products and things out there, I'm going to struggle to name them now because I'm on the spot. But I've heard of a few of them.
Expert.
Yeah.
They're the main two I know of. There's a couple of others.
There's a few others coming through as well. I hear bits and bobs about them through the Digitals podcast and the news that those guys go on about. But I think I haven't tested them. I haven't used them. I don't know how accurate they are and things. But in my head, it's more about where it's going, the sort of trajectory of things. And it feels like an area that's fairly ripe for an AI tool to come in and replace a lot of that work. Because it's only going to get more accurate over time. So I think that's an interesting shift and dynamic that's going on. And yeah, as to the actual ability of those products, I'm not sure. I haven't played with them that much.
I forgot to mention one more of them, Artifact. Again,
yes.
These people aren't paying me to say their names, but the three main ones I've heard of. And I feel I'd be remiss if I forgot one of them. I'm sure there's others as well. Oh, Briefcase. There you go. That's another one.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And again, I'm with you, by the way. Like I know all these names when I'm not on air. But if you ask me these questions, my brain goes blah. So, yeah. Oh, that's a good thing for you. With your media business, how do you help people get over the there when you're filming them, if you have to, or are you just behind the camera?
So typically, what I'll do with that is we'll tend to do a few takes of things, and often you can discard the first couple because you know that they're just warming up and they're sort of settling into things and managing their own thought process. Often what I'll do is I'll stand behind the camera and just speak to them and try and encourage them more to get out of the mindset of presenting to a camera, because that's quite daunting, and just have a conversation with me who happens to be near a camera. So that can tend to work, and then we can use the editing skills to just cut out the bits that we don't need and then stitch it back together into quite a nice sort of flowing piece. But one of the other things that works quite well is, particularly if you're just going to record something for yourself, or if you want to make a quick LinkedIn post or whatever, is rather than think that you're talking to a camera, just imagine a person that that really likes your work and your sort of ideal customer profile, I suppose. Someone that's going to get a lot of value, someone that likes you, and just talk to them, albeit through the lens, and sort of assume that you're getting positive regard back from that person as they're watching it, because that's something that can trip you up, because you might be thinking, God, I'm saying this, but what if someone's sort of heckling me as they're seeing it, and you can trip yourself up that way. So just having that sort of positive attitude towards what you're trying to say and who you're trying to say it to can just unblock some of those mental hurdles that cause you to trip over yourself.
Cool. Have you heard of the millennial pause, and have you witnessed the millennial pause?
Yeah, I have. And I've seen it happen.
I do it.
Sort of, yeah, I've
I do
seen
it.
it. I'm not sure if it's a trend or not, but I've seen more and more videos where people are sort of reaching for the camera in the final thing, and you see them switching it on and off. And I'm not sure if that's just lazy editing or if that's a sort of a vibe now. But yeah, I'm familiar with the millennial pause. But you've got the antithesis of that, which is the sort of the Gen Z thing where they just start talking straight away. And there was an interesting thing. I think it was because when you and I were starting to get used to using cameras, the sort of older millennials, it took a little while for them to start recording, didn't it?
It did. It took a second or two. You'd have to wait.
Yeah.
There was a second or two before it would actually start recording. So you would wait, knowing full well there was a slight delay.
Yeah. Whereas now they're straight up, right? So Gen Z haven't had to deal with that challenge.
Yeah. Okay. If you could be born in any generation other than your own, which generation would you choose?
I think it's hard to make an argument not to have wanted to be a boomer, right? Because they just sat on so much money in like massive houses and stuff.
They are having a great time.
Yeah. They got to enjoy the sort of benefit of the internet of it coming out when it was still new and fresh. So you wouldn't have missed out on that shift. They're close enough to retire now that if AI causes too much of an issue, they can just opt out of it. Like a lot of people from practices in that boomer generation just go like, I can't really be bothered with when TD, I'll just retire, which is quite a nice option. And I think if I'm getting my things right, they probably would have got a little bit of the bit of time in the 60s in their life as well. And I would
if you're boomer, you might be born in the 50s. So yes, you would have got the 60s. And,
love to have experienced the Beatles when they were out, and the swinging 60s would have been pretty cool to be part of, I think. So yeah, boomer for me.
And they have experienced so many firsts as well. Like for example, the idea of celebrities. You mentioned the Beatles and maybe Elvis. Before that, celebrityism wasn't really a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like there were people of note, but like the way we do celebrityism now, that was the first start of that. That was like, their lifetime. Well, Elvis is older, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing a Billy Connolly stand up once talking about the first time he heard rock and roll. It was like Elvis or something like that, and he was just sort of joking about all the stuff that he used to listen to, and it sounded like what I would imagine be the 1920s stuff, just kind of jazz bands and stuff like that. And then he was just like rock and roll for the first time he heard it. He's like, what is this? And that just must have been an immense thing. But also going to see them live as well, and it would have been 20p or whatever to go and see someone live at that time,
Well, I was talking about this the other day with a friend of mine. Like, I remember when a pint of Guinness was like £2 or £3.
Yeah.
And Guinness was considered more expensive. So like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Or at uni, they'd have like £1 a pint sometimes.
Yeah.
That's never happening again.
No. we were past that. There's incredible opportunities now that said, about being a boomer, like it would have been so much harder to start a business. And I love running my own business and having that freedom and things, but the idea of having to go cap in hand to a bank manager to get a loan to start a business, and it would have been so hard. So I'm really grateful for that we've got in this generation now, right? That opportunity to do that. Yeah. So the swings around.
Even opening a bank account, like literally, like I want to build a bank account. I go to Starling, Metal, whoever it is, Monzo, take a picture of my face on my phone, have a passport, and boom, I've got a business bank account. Done.
Yeah, definitely, and potentially reach an audience of thousands of potential customers through the web and all that sort of stuff. That's easily taken for granted now, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. Marcus Batson coming in with the comments. Marcus, thank you for listening, by the way, and engaging. Appreciate that. If there's anyone else listening, please feel free to engage. Leigh is here to answer all of your ridiculous questions. Does he prefer apples or pears? Oranges or satsumas? What's the difference? All these silly questions Leigh is going to answer. Marcus B, on the psychology side, a common barrier is getting the team to buy into the vision for long enough. Any tips for firms from either of you on that?
I'm happy to go, but I'm interested to know what you've got to say on that, Dale, because you'll have seen a lot of that in practice, right? Or you've seen it happen?
I'm going to echo what you kind of said already. So the problems I've seen in the past are salesperson is very, very good. Again, I'm not advocating bad sales, where people like, snake oil salesmen, genuinely good salespeople with best intent, go into a senior manager knowing that the decision maker has to sign a check and selling to them and going, yeah, I think you guys have got this problem. Yes, we've got this problem. Off you go. And in a large organization, there's many leaders per se, and then that being signed and then it getting pushed down. That's the problem. Or the way I've seen it work is, look, we have this problem. We as a business, senior management need to know the strategy. The most junior member of staff needs to be able to understand the purpose or mission for that particular project. And if they can't recite it, repeat it, or understand the benefit of it to them or the firm, you've missed a trick. And it's really cliche, but getting that buy-in is really important. For me, it's a case of who's using this software, what do they want out of the software, and where are they using the software? Making sure they know what's happening at every grade or level, whatever it is in your firm, practice, business, their other. They know what they're going to get out of it. They know what the return on investment is in the future. Now, a more junior member of staff's maybe not going to care if the business 4x's in 24 months, right? But if you say, by the way, if we 4x in 24 months because we use the software and you get a 10k pay rise, I exaggerate, that is a big motivator for a grade A or a junior member of staff. Or if you do that, by the way, instead of you having to work Friday until 7 because you're busy, you can probably finish at Friday at 12:30 every day for the rest of your life if you work with us. That's a big incentive, because there's a point, especially I think in accounting or professional services, where you work in it long enough, you get qualified, you have a decent salary. And sometimes money is not an incentive, it's time. It's like, can I actually go out and spend my money and enjoy it? Can I see my kids? Can I see my significant other? All that kind of stuff. I've gone on a bit of a tangent, a waffle, but yeah, basically making sure everyone's incentivized, making sure everyone is bought in, and making sure that motivation is sustained. They're the key differentiators in things working, and just making sure communication's on there. So like having designated roles to make sure people know that they have to send out this information on a weekly or monthly basis to make sure everyone is still engaged. That makes a huge difference. If you adopt a product and you get excitement for the first 3 months because everyone's new, that fizzles out. You have to have someone who's making a concerted effort to go like, this is still happening, this is still going. KR recently implemented Silverfin, and our Silverfin team have done a great job of sustaining momentum. Every week there's something in our Silverfin discussion chat. Hey, did you know this? There's a tip you could do this. Oh, this makes it faster. They've had fortnightly catch-up sessions, and they've kind of slowed down. I can't do this on Silverfin. I used to do this on Caseware. Blah, blah. It's done. They've done an amazing job of getting the buy-in. I've spoken a lot for the last 2-3 minutes. Hopefully it made sense, but that's my take on it.
There's a few to add a little bit of colour of the change management theory behind some of those things that you've mentioned there. So one of the biggest drivers of successful change is having significant and visible leadership buy-in. And so if you can see that the sort of head of the practice, the managing partner, is pushing for this, and then everybody all the way down is, as an individual, there's not really anywhere for you to hide and go, well, actually, that's a that department thing. I'll just sort of keep quiet over here and carry on the way I was. So that's really important. And that was exemplified to me when back in the early days of Xero, we had to move from Office products, so Excel, and I'd used Excel all the time, like it was kind of pry it out of my cold dead hand sort of attitude. And we were moving to Google Workspace. But the way they dealt with that change, it was like the CEO and everybody down was like, this is happening, this is why it's happening, like here's the time frame, here's what to expect. And we had the same, we had like kind of sessions with customer success experts and things like that just sort of really eroded every excuse we could have for not doing it. On the communication front, there's this idea that you can't really over communicate what you're doing because so much of it gets lost. So what happens often is, if a firm do communicate, they'll do it once and expect everybody's read it, but they won't have. So you have to continually have this thing going. And change management expert called John Cotter, who's written quite a few books on it, one of the things he says is that it should be in every channel that you communicate with. It should be in there. So if you have an internal newsletter, if you have stand-ups, it should be featuring in all of those channels to make sure everyone hears it, but to also underline the importance of what you're doing. You need to break down your different stakeholders to figure out who's affected in different ways, and then prioritize them. So whether they've got influence over the change or not, and whether they're impacted by the change or not, and to what degree, you can then put that into a 2x2 matrix and then figure out what your strategy for each of those quadrant is going to be based on those factors. And then the other one which has come up recently is I've been learning a little bit more about behavior psychology and heuristics and things like that, and the little psychological shortcuts that we take.
Mhm.
And one of the really useful ones to think about is loss aversion. So we, as a species, as humans, feel the pain of losing things more so than we do the benefit of getting new things. So you can then try and use that to when you're talking about motivation and getting people bought in, like they're less likely to care about an extra grand pay rise. But if you say, well, a grand of your salary is now going to be linked to your performance against this thing, that's going to hurt more. Like there's lots of other things to consider around that. I'm not necessarily advocating for just taking people's money off them, but that would be a bigger motivator than saying here's an extra grand, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's loads of stuff. I could talk all day about this, but hopefully that's useful, Marcus.
I feel like Marcus already kind of knows some of this stuff, that the work he has to do, I mean,
Yeah.
is very similar. We'll give a shout out to Zama with an X-A-M-A, AML stuff. The boring side of accountancy, I'm not going to lie.
And that is a tricky one, because the AML stuff is hard because it's a pain, isn't it? Right. And I think for most firms, they just want to get it out of the way and just tick the box. And then it's like, as long as it's not hurting me, I'll be happy.
I liken AML to accountants as to some business owners view accountancy to their business. But back in the day, let's be honest, you had a business, let's be probably a small business, you've got to have some accounts prepared, you've got to file a corporation tax, you've got to pay it. You don't really want to do too much of it, so you hand it all over to an accountant and go, your hygiene costs, just make me pay as less tax as possible, right? That's usually what people have done in the past. And for accountants, it's the same thing. It's like, look, they have to do AML for security reasons. It's a good thing, but it's a part of the business that doesn't earn them any money. It costs money to do, and it's quite laborious. So I feel there's some parallels, and accountants can resonate and business owners can resonate. AML is
They do, but I think the advantage they've got on loss aversion is pretty significant. I don't know if my thinking's out of date here, but I understand that the MLRO can actually go to jail if they get this wrong. So there's a very strong incentive.
Here's the crazy thing that a lot of people don't realize. If you're involved in the onboarding of that client in any way, you have some kind of personal responsibility. So let's say me as a manager, I'm not a boom in our firm. I don't sign things off. But if I onboarded a client and checks weren't done, I can get fined. I can get jail time. Anyone in the firm, a junior who's touched that file or that kind of person's details or got them in, they can get fined as well. Anyone can.
So then I think that becomes part of a communication issue, right? It's like, does everyone in the firm know that that's their risk and their exposure? And I'm sure if they knew that, they'd probably be a little bit more bought into making sure these things work.
For everybody. But it's, going back to Marcus' other point about how to change management and what you said in terms of pressing a button to get £10. Again, making it as easy as possible. People don't do AML stuff because it historically has been very process driven and very manual. There are now systems out there, Zama and others, that kind of make it easier for you. And if you can just make it easy for people, go, look, this is now the process, and you've got to do this one button press, I exaggerate, they're more likely to do it. The moment you make it harder and add more steps, or it's got the same steps as your original process, you're like, well, why am I doing it a different way? Because they can't see the benefit.
Yeah, I think intuitively, if you're looking at a process, I think most people go, well, we should make it as easy as we can, right? Of course, it makes kind of common sense. But then it's well, how do you do that? And so one useful other takeaway here is that there's sort of 5 areas that you can look at around making things easier, right? So it's money, time, mental effort, physical effort, and then am I disrupting an existing habit or routine? And you can then systematically start looking at each of those areas and say, well, which are the things here that are making this hard for people? Does it taking too long? Great. Okay, how do I make it shorter? Does it require them to think too much? Which, even intelligent people don't want to think. We're lazy creatures, right? That's how we've evolved, and that's how we've survived, by being as lazy as possible.
Can I change lazy for the word pragmatic? Is that a better word you can use?
Absolutely. That's better. But yeah, we want to take the path of least resistance. So just give it to them, right? Just how do we make this easier in those fields?
All right. I feel like we need to zoom in. Hold on. This is my extent of my editing skills.
Okay.
Boom. Look at that.
Nice.
Nice and close. Now we can get more intimate. What are you watching on Netflix at the moment?
I am rewatching Peaky Blinders at the moment on Netflix, and I've binged it probably over the last 2 weeks. I'm near the end of it again now.
I've never watched it. Is it really that good?
It is very good. even on a second watch. And I think that's the test sometimes. If you've sort of got the joy out of it the first time, but it's still good the second time, then that's a big thing. But yeah, it's up there in the top 10 TV series for me, I think.
Okay, what are the top 3 then? What's the top 10 for you?
Breaking Bad has got to
Yep.
be number 1. What did I watch recently? Was Ted Lasso.
I do like Ted Lasso. It's funny you say Breaking Bad, by the way, because literally a couple of weeks ago, I had some people on with Zoe. She was hosting with me, and they were talking about the JOMO. So you're familiar with the opposite of FOMO?
Right.
So FOMO is
joy
fear
of
of missing out, joy of missing out.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, many people agreed Breaking Bad they have JOMO, and I was like, really? Really? Because I watched it like 3 years later after everybody else, and I was like, oh, now I see why there's so much hype. It was epic. It's so good.
It's great. As a character study, it's excellent.
Indies making a comment. Leigh Stallard is back. Where did he disappear to? Leigh sharing his playbook, and I'm here for it. Yeah, you do give some good insights, by the way.
Thanks, mate. I just find this stuff really interesting myself, and it's just nice to then share it back to people, you know.
I mean, all I'm hearing you say is dance, puppets, dance. That's all you're really saying, isn't it? You're going to get in their brains and make them do stuff. And
Well, so I put a post out the other day about another sort of mental heuristic about the sort of consistency principle, right? So if the idea is if you've done something once, you're more likely to do something that's linked to that again in the future.
Mhm.
And the post, like, people can check the post out if they want to see it, but the idea is that you can use this in quite a manipulative way if you want to, but it's important to be doing it ethically, in my opinion. It's really important. If you're going to use these things, you should be using it to help someone achieve something that they've said they already want to achieve, which is they've bought products, right? There's intent there. They want to do something.
Mhm.
Hopefully, if you've been through a good, solid sales process, you will have discovered that there's pain points and there's reasons they want to do this stuff. And so you're then using these principles to help them achieve something rather than exploit them. That's really, really important part, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, would you like a serious question or a silly question next?
Let's go for a silly question.
Duck or chicken? What would you prefer to eat?
I do like a bit of crispy duck, but I think, is this like forever? Are you saying like right now for the next meal, or is this like forever? You got to pick one.
Not forever. We'll just general, like when you're going for something.
I tend to be fairly safe and go for chicken usually, but now you've offered me the duck, I think I would go some crispy duck and some what is it? Chinese crispy duck, right?
So like hoisin sauce, kind of plum sauce.
Hoisin sauce,
yeah, something like that.
In a little wrap.
See, because this is anecdotal evidence, but I find that when I ask people these questions in certain ways, I get a different response. So, for example, most people would say chicken, but if I give them the option of duck, they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't eat duck that often," but actually, give them the choice. Duck is the winner. Okay, last 3 things on your, I don't know, streaming playlist or MP3 player that played recently. What's last 3 things?
I have recently cancelled Spotify because I used to really enjoy sitting and listening to an album and actually experiencing the album as a whole. So I have the last couple of things that I've listened to, I've gone back and listened to OK Computer by Radiohead and really just enjoyed that album, and the Bends by them as well. Yeah, amazing albums. And it's sort of, I've missed it really. I like, because you just like stick a playlist on with Spotify and just listen to whatever's there. But actually listening to a whole album, I think is a real treat. And Queens of the Stone Age as well, the Songs for the Deaf. But and so the beauty of this as well is that I haven't bought albums for ages. So now I'm going back and listening to my old iTunes stuff. It's stuff that I bought 10, 15 years ago. Yep. And I had a phase where I really enjoyed listening to string quartet covers of bands. So I've got a Vitamin, there's the band or the group's called Vitamin String Quartet, and they did a load of Muse covers, and it's just great to listen to. I love that. And there's an OK Computer.
I'm going to make a note of that one. Hold on, Vitamin String Quartet. Okay.
Yeah, tribute to Muse. And it's just amazing to, because I really loved Muse. One of my first albums that I really got into. And so yeah, hearing that played by a string quartet is amazing. And Echo Park by Feeder as well. I forgot how much I love that album. I don't really like Buck Rogers that much.
They're a band that just like had their time in the sun, but are also timeless. Do you know what I mean? Like they were not every like advert, lots of movies. The album was banging, and like for me, I remember them from the PlayStation 2, I want to say Gran Turismo 2 or 3, like
Right.
their songs were on the soundtrack, and it's just like they were just banging out. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
They're a great band.
What was the first album you ever owned?
I think it was probably a little Now album, like a Now 35 or
Compilation.
something like that. Yeah, it probably would have been. I remember the first single that I bought was Three Lions, the first one in 1996.
Yeah.
The Baddiel and Skinner.
The Frank Skinner one.
Yes, the original for Euro 96.
It's coming home. Oh, wow. That's a good song to start off with.
It's a good first one, isn't it? Yeah.
My first single was Beanie Man and Maya.
Okay.
I want to say it's called Girls Damn Sugar. Yeah. It was
Right,
on cassette, by the way. That's how old I is.
Yeah.
It was on cassette. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure song? The song that you know that some of your friends would judge you harshly for listening to this kind of music.
Well, so you've not really incentivized me to share that.
I mean, I'll share mine first if it makes you feel more comfortable.
Okay, go on.
So for background and context, I'm a huge heavy metal fan. So a lot of my friends love technical guitar, bass, drums. You know, they appreciate the crazy time signature stuff like that. My guilty pleasure one, it's a very girly song. It's Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson. I will whack that on in the car, and I'll be belting out at the top of my lungs. Yeah. Great song.
I like Shake It Out by Taylor Swift. I'm not really a Swiftie, but I love the drum beat on that. The drum beat on that is incredible.
It's also it's a positive theme. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Haters are gonna hate, players are gonna play, breakers are gonna break. Yeah. You just gotta shake it off. Because actually, think about it. Taylor Swift actually gets a lot of hate unnecessarily. Because as far as female role models go and pop stars go, like she's never those are pictures of her at the club or getting drunk or on drugs. Like she's actually a pretty decent role model.
Yeah, I find this topic fascinating though, because how much are pop stars actually real people, and how much of them are effectively characters for a marketing engine? So I think
it depends on the pop star.
Yeah,
I think some of them are genuinely interesting, quirky people who see things differently. And you're right. Another batch are just like they're on because they have to be on to be edgy.
Yeah.
But they're not that person. You're right.
It's interesting. And there was something, I can't remember what it was. There was someone, a kid out of One Direction or something, or there was a book that came out recently just talking about like the behind the scenes of this sort of manufactured pop movement and what these people were subjected to. And I think it was one of the guys out of One Direction. They were basically just like, do the show, get locked in a hotel room until you go to the next city. And like, it's not nice. And it's like, get the violins out for the millionaires, but like they're a product within a very large company. And I think
it gets worse than that. So first of all, what you're saying has been going on for decades, right? So certain bands, technically the Jackson 5 are a commercial band. They were made to make money, right?
Right.
But there's worse examples than that. So like the S Club 7, right? If you actually go read their backstory, they signed a ridiculous contract with Disney, and everything that they've done, they don't get any royalties for. Like most singers and artists will get some kind of royalties. So they got paid amount, got used up, Disney drops them, and they get nothing, which is absurd considering the height of fame they had. On a positive note, Indie's first single, Bop by Hanson.
Amazing.
Again, they're a band that have evolved significantly. Like, because again, their reputation, I would say, for men of our age, liking that song is a guilty pleasure. But their newer stuff, because they're still going, some 20 odd years later. Yeah, they do amazingly well written songs. Like,
I didn't know they were still making music, but I do remember seeing an acoustic version of Bop a year or two ago, and it did hit differently because the lyrics are quite profound in it, really, if you listen to them. But like an acoustic, sort of slower paced version of it was quite interesting.
Have you ever seen the TV show Community?
No. Okay,
great TV show, ahead of its time. So I'm Googling as I talk to you.
Okay.
When you listen to it, it's called, hold on, at least, the theme song to the song is called At Least It Was Here by the 88, right?
Okay.
You listen to that song on the TV show, and it's really, really happy and upbeat. If you actually listen to the lyrics, it is the most depressing song you've ever heard.
Really?
It's terrible. Almost like the Peep Show sing song. You know, like it's pretty, it's pretty dark. Bleak, I'm not sick, but I'm not well. Like what?
Yeah.
There you go, Marcus. Community is brilliant. Honestly, it was well ahead of its time. It's a great show. It's still funny to this day. It goes downhill after season 5 a little bit, but still pretty funny.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to have a look. Yeah.
easy, binge-worthy comedy, 27 minutes per episode kind of dealy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just light, right?
Some light. It's lovable characters. It's pretty good. Oh, hello. Marcus, the Floor is Lava episode is incredible. Yes, he's right. Also, for those who know, the Meow Meow Beans episode is pretty epic. So essentially, the people who do Community are also the same kind of people that do Rick and Morty.
Okay.
That whole group of creativity. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of pop culture references, and there's like a Logan's Run episode. Like it's crazy. Also, the paintball episodes are on point. There's like 3 paintball episodes that are all absolutely amazing.
Okay, nice. I'm keen to watch this now. I'll pop it on the list.
Put on the list.
If I come back on again, we'll share the references.
we can do like a review. Yeah. Well, you're welcome back anytime, man. Anytime.
Okay.
Again, I feel like I berated you with questions. Do you have any questions for me, or?
I would love to know if you're reading any good books at the moment. Like, what are you
Other
reading?
Than the
What do
Bible.
you think? Other than the Bible?
No sarcasm. I read the Bible.
Yeah, cool.
So I often recommend Gardens of the Moon by
Gardens.
Stephen Erickson,
Okay.
and I'll explain. Is it low fantasy or high fantasy? I guess it's high fantasy. There's dragons and stuff in it.
Yeah.
Fantasy series. There's 10 main books in the Malazan Books of the Fallen. They are epic tomes. They are on par with, what's his name? Tolkien and George R. R. Martin, all these guys. Like, it's epic. I would argue that it's the best thing I've ever read in terms of fantasy.
Wow.
The characters are amazing. There's no hand holding. Like the first book, you have no idea what's going on for the first 50 pages. Like, who are these people? There's already thousands of years of history, but none of it's explained, right? None of it. But the sum of the characters is so compelling, and this is true. The first time I read, I think the 5th or 6th book, there's a character death in it, and it made me tear up. I was on the train on the way to work, a little tear came out my eye. They're so well written. They write things from a multiple point perspective. So in chapter 1, you'll read about character A, and I know they're walking along, and a boulder almost falls on their head while on the mountain. 5 chapters later, you find out character B and C were walking on the same trail for whatever reason, and they're the reason why the boulder moved. But it's kind of a very weak example of how good it is, and there's always this convergence. And the concept of morality, there is good and bad in this book, I'm not going to lie, but it's not your typical trope where this is definitely the good person or the bad person. There's the complex reasons and mechanisms as to why people are politically motivated, or even racially motivated in some ways, to do what they do. So there's not, the right and wrong isn't just necessarily, these are the bad guys, we hate them. It's like, no, there's a reason why they're doing that.
I do like that when it's a bit more nuanced. That people might be doing good things for a bad reason or bad things for a good reason, and it's a little bit more to chew on, isn't it, mentally, if you're reading that. Yeah.
There's this isn't a spoiler. There's a guy in there called Calor, right? He's one of the bad guys. He is one of the best written bad guys I've ever. Like, you hate him, but he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you hate him, but he's not wrong.
Yeah.
That's the worst way. Like, oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, I often recommend that book. I've read the series. It's like my 5th reread. And to put it in context as well, so it's co-authored. So Stephen Erickson has written the main 10 books. His friend Ian Eselmont, they were at university together. They're both, I think, archaeologists. They did the whole story started as a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Wow.
They went, let's put it into a story. Hence why it's so epic and ridiculous and nebulous. But it always comes together in the end. And you can read the main 10 books, and there's like another 20 satellite novellas or novels around it.
Wow. I love that, where there's a bit of a universe to get into, and sort of get your teeth into it.
In my humble opinion, it's a great universe. And even if you don't like fantasy, right, you'll enjoy reading these books.
Oh, get into that. That sounds really good.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a really long answer, wasn't it?
That was great.
Yeah, I get passionate about it. Wait, what are you reading at the moment?
I am reading. Well, I'm still reading the sort of psychology stuff at the moment. So I've just finished reading Hooked by Nir Eyal, which is about again behavioral psychology and forming habits for people. And I'm reading Nudge at the moment, the final edition of Nudge, which is again about like just the weird little psychological things that cause people to make decisions and how you can encourage them positively along a route. So reading those, and I haven't read any fiction for a little while. But I do quite like Jack Reacher novels, so I'll have a couple of them on the go at any given point.
I have heard they're good. I have
Yeah.
heard the TV show is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I haven't watched it yet. I've only seen clips on YouTube, and they make it look amazing. They make it look awesome.
They're going to be the best bits, right?
Yeah. Indy's coming with a question. What's the book that best describes your outlook on life? As in, if you read this book, you will better understand me.
That's a great question. I'm going to defer to you first, Dale.
Okay. The first thing that came into my head was a book called The Lonely Londoner. I want to say it's written by Sam Sevlon. Just bear with me. I'm just going to do a quick Google. Yeah, The Lonely Londoners by Sam Selvon, Samselvon. So, it was written many, many years ago, and it's written in Jamaican patois. And it is the author's written it that way because it was his experience of him coming to London in the, I want to say like 60s, 70s, the whole race thing, poverty thing going on, and him explaining his experience. And I can kind of relate to it. Not that I'm poor or an immigrant, but it's a story that resonates with me because that's my parents. And some of the things he does in it are culturally different because he's from Jamaica, and I can kind of see it. And I think if more people read that book who don't know anything about, I say Jamaican culture specifically, but West Indian culture and Windrush and all that stuff, they would get it more. So if you read that book and you want to know more about, let's be honest, Black Afro-Caribbean people or Caribbean people in the UK, you'd understand more some of maybe their struggle or the way they are or their decisions. So yeah, The Lonely Londoners by Sam Selvon.
Really interesting.
Got kind of deep there, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
I'm under pressure now to come up with something equivalent, and I don't have anything.
You don't have to go deep. You can be like 101 Dalmatians because you like coats. Done.
Yeah. Probably like one of those little Spot books that I used to read, the little Spot the dog.
Yeah.
I would probably say something by Ryan Holiday. I quite like the sort of Stoic philosophy, the sort of, all of that sort of stuff. So there's a couple of his that I can't remember exactly the titles of now, but there was a couple that I read fairly recently, the blue one and a red one, which isn't a great endorsement for the fact that I read it and digested it, but I can't remember what it was.
You can't remember everything, mate. You got busy business, you got family,
There is that, and then I think there was another one that came to mind a minute ago. Oh, I've forgotten it. There was. So I read. Do you know Jason Fox? He's the SBS guy who's on SAS Who Dares Wins.
Okay.
And he left the SBS with sort of mental health issues and stuff like that. So he talked about a lot of that in his book, and he's got some, obviously being a special forces soldier, a lot of stoicism and stuff like that in there as well. But he talks a lot about that and mental health in there as well. I thought that was really good. That's
cool. That's really cool. Indy, you're asking some really good questions. It's almost like you would like to be on the show at some point. So I'm offering you the invitation. Would love to have you on. Love to talk. And maybe next time Tony's back. Sorry, I forgot to say Tony's not here today because he's a bit under the weather. So please all send your love to Tony. I'm sure he'll be back in the next couple of days, weeks. But yeah, Marcus B giving his book recommendation. The obstacle is the way. That best describes him. Is that right? Or
I'm not sure. That was the one though. Indy's put a couple of things in. Wisdom takes work and ego is the enemy, but it was the obstacle is the way.
Okay, cool. So that if people read that, they'd understand you better.
I think so.
Okay. We had a very deep conversation today, haven't we? Like there's been very little humor because usually I try and get some humor in so I can get some clips going and but it is what it is. It's what it is.
Humor. I'm under pressure to think of a joke now, which is probably dangerous ground to be on when you're on a live stream, isn't it? Because I grew up in the 80s and there was a lot of jokes that's got lodged in my head. Well, 80s and 90s, a lot of jokes that were going around when I was a kid. It should be banished to.
Do you want to hear the one that first came to my mind? I'm not saying it's about you, just one that came to my head. It was a Your Mama joke. Your mama is so fat, she sat on a rainbow and Skittles popped out. I remember having so many of these in the chamber. Yeah. What's this? Man flu, poor guy. I expect it hit him hard. You know what? I'm going to respond to this one. I've said this before in other lives, and I'll say it again. The cure to man flu is the love and affection of a good woman, but women don't believe we suffer with it, so you don't give us the love and affection, so we continue to suffer. If women just placated our fragile male egos, we'd get better sooner, but you don't, so it goes on forever, days, weeks, sometimes years, man flu. Fortunately for you guys, it's not fatal, but just that's why man flu exists.
I'm waiting to see the comeback on that now. Anxiously watching the comment thread.
There goes into my streaming career, as it were.
One thing that brings this full circle a little bit is we talked about sort of philosophy and morals and all that sort of stuff. Have you seen The Good Place on Netflix?
I love that show.
Oh, it's fantastic.
No spoilers, but it's a great show, right?
Yeah, it's really good. I love the sort of meditation on moral philosophy and what makes a good person and what makes a bad person. How do we judge that? And it's just great. I love this stuff like that where it sort of encourages you to think about how you think about things. You know, it sort of gets your own mind going. Love that.
I mean, I'm biased, so I mentioned that I've read the Bible before. I am a Christian, not the best one. So my appeal to morality is God, right? The God of the Bible. And I think, if you have a religion, then you're appealing to your God or deity. If you don't have a religion, it's usually just preferences, like morality. Yeah,
I don't know. I think it's interesting. So there's a really good quote in the Good Place, and I think so. Chidi, the character, is a moral philosophy teacher, right? And I think he talks about Kant, and one of the ideas is the question of like, what do we owe each other? And I think there's ways to adopt a moral framework without necessarily a religion. There's a different way of doing it, but I don't necessarily, because I think, you get a sense of your morals and right and wrong from your parents and your community, and you have this sort of North Star, don't you? So I think you still get that even if you don't have a structured sort of religion around
but then,
it,
if your society or group around you were to have a different rule, does that mean you're still wrong or right? Does that make sense?
It does make perfect sense, but then you could argue the same if your society and your culture around you had a different religion, you would have been brought up into a different religion potentially.
Yeah, true. But most religions have a deity that says these things are wrong, and we kind of agree on that level.
Sure. Yeah.
Murder, wrong. We will agree.
But
stealing, wrong. We will agree.
Largely, yeah.
Largely.
But then there's someone always willing to play devil's advocate and go, "Oh, what about this situation?"
Pun intended.
Advocate. You can try and morally justify things in certain scenarios, can't you?
Yeah. Man, we're getting deep on this, and literally, we've only got like 10 minutes left. Like, we're getting very deep. I like it. This is nice. It's nice. I can't think of any questions right now. You stumped me. This is very rarely happens.
I've exhausted the question bank.
Well, usually I try and kind of like bounce off you, but I think we might have hit the end of the stream.
We've come to a natural ending point. Indy would be a great guest, by the way. Indy's got some fantastic insights on where AI is going, and absolutely, that would be a great chat.
Yeah. On that note, I'm going to hit end stream. We're going to smile for a second.
Okay.
There is a millennial delay with the ending of the stream. It doesn't end straight away. So we'll smile. We'll say bye to everybody. Indy, Marcus, and others watching, listening. Thank you for engaging, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully, Tenniel shall return. Peace.